Okay, so imagine taking the biggest show on the entire planet, Squid Game, and not just, paying homage to it, but actually rebuilding every single set in real life, down to the tiniest detail. Well, that's exactly what happened. One of the world's biggest YouTubers set out to create one of the most insane productions we've ever seen online. And the scale of this thing, it was just staggering. Exactly like in the show, they brought in 456 real people to compete in a series of these high-stakes, real-life children's games.
So, what was on the line? A truly life changing $456,000. That's $1,000 for every single person that was competing.
But here's the catch. The rules were absolutely ruthless. Out of all 456 of those people who walked in, only one was going to walk out with the cash. So how did they even begin to narrow down that crowd? All right, let's get into the games. The first couple of games, they were really designed for one thing and one thing only, just pure mass elimination. The whole goal was to thin the herd as fast as humanly possible, and they started with the most iconic game of all, red light, green light. You could feel the tension right from the start. See, every player had this little device strapped to their chest that would pop if they were eliminated. And right away, we saw some clever strategies. One player actually hung back in last place on purpose, just letting everyone else test the waters. But the most diabolical move came from Mr. Beast himself, who threw in a surprise yellow light that tricked dozens and dozens of players into getting eliminated early. And the results? It was just brutal. I mean, look at that drop. In the very first game, nearly half of the entire group was just wiped out. The number of contestants just plummeted from 456 all the way down to 232. So next up was the honeycomb challenge. Players had to pick a door, totally blind to what shape was waiting for them on the other side. And the fear of getting the umbrella, which is by far the hardest one, was so real. But you're not going to believe this. One player actually got the umbrella and managed to carve it out and survive. Incredible. After 10 super tense minutes, the player count dropped again, this time down to 142. But then, of course, Mr. Beast threw in another twist. He offered $4,000 in cash to anyone who wanted to just quit, right there on the spot. And honestly, a surprising number of people took the deal, which brought the final competitor count down to 120. So this is where the whole vibe of the competition just completely shifted. The big, chaotic culling was over. Now the games were designed to be personal, pitting players and even friends directly against each other. First up, tug of war. Teams of 10 squaring off in just a raw test of strength. Alliances formed in an instance. One team even controversially declared a no girls allowed rule, trying to maximize their strength. The matches were so intense, one team pulled so hard they literally broke the set. And just like that, the field was cut exactly in half. 6 winning teams of 10 meant that only 60 competitors were still in the running for that massive prize. And then came what was probably the most heartbreaking twist of the entire event. For the marbles game, the producers revealed they had been monitoring who all the players were hanging out with. They used that data to force best friends and even people who were sharing rooms to compete one-on-one against each other. Only one of them could move on. The result was, as you can imagine, super emotional. Players were making up their own games on the spot, throwing marbles at bricks, playing odd or even. One pair of best friends, they just couldn't bring themselves to compete, so they decided their fate and a shot at hundreds of thousands of dollars with a single coin flip. The number of players was halved once again, down to just 30. All right, so to get to the next main event, those remaining 30 players had to survive this super fast elimination round of Dokji. The first 16 to pull it off moved on to what was, I think we can all agree, the most psychologically terrifying challenge of them all. Welcome to the Glass Bridge. This is just a high-stakes game of pure 50-50 chance. Every single step you take forward could be your last. The order they crossed in was completely random, which meant if you drew number 1, well, your game was pretty much over. It was the ultimate test of pure luck and raw nerve. And this is where human psychology just totally took over. After a few players fell, the game just ground to a complete stop. Nobody would risk making that next 50-50 jump. A really tense standoff started, and it lasted until Mr. Beast got on the intercom and announced that if the clock ran out, he was just going to keep the money. But even with that threat,
the timer expired and 4 players who hadn't even crossed yet were eliminated for doing absolutely nothing. So once all the metaphorical glass had settled, only 6 players were left. And as a reward for surviving that terrifying bridge, they were treated to a massive steak dinner before heading into the final game. And so it all came down to this: 6 people, 1 final game, and a prize of $456,000 just hanging in the balance. But for the big finale, they didn't actually play the Squid Game from the show. Instead, they swapped it out for musical chairs. Yeah, musical chairs. And why? Well, Mr. Beast's reasoning was actually pretty simple. It's a game literally everyone knows, which guaranteed a simple, dramatic, and a universally understood final battle. The elimination was fast. 1 player went out in a wild scramble. Another one honorably just admitted defeat when he knew he lost the race to the seat. And 1 contestant made a critical mistake. He sat down before the music had even stopped, which sealed his fate. And pretty soon, there were only 2 left standing. After one last super tense walk around a single chair, the music stopped and contestant 079 dove for the seat, securing the victory and the entire $456,000 prize. The runner-up didn't go home empty-handed, though. They still got a pretty nice consolation prize of $10,000. And that really brings us to the final thought here. This one YouTube video cost over $3.5 million to make, a spectacle that's on a scale that honestly rivals major TV networks and movie studios. It kind of makes you wonder, right? When individual creators can pull us productions at this level of budget and ambition, what does that really say about the future of entertainment?